And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir.
Blake, we got to catch a pretty dominant win at the Masters. We were just watching that as we were getting ready to go. I know
Scheffler,
that this is
actually, as you're just saying this, just missed a putt. But
it doesn't matter.
It does not. He's going to sink this putt. And Scottie Scheffler, for the second time, in 4 years or 3 years, is going to win.
Insane.
The Masters.
Insane.
He is I know that Scottie Scheffler is from New Jersey, your home state.
Yes.
There is not another golfer in the face of the planet that looks like the University of Texas more than Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, it's weird to consider that he's from New Jersey, but I always thought he was from Texas. I had no idea that he was from the state of New Jersey. He doesn't give off those vibes. I also forget he's 27. Like, I think he's like 35. He looks like he's
By the way,
like
his wife is 9 months pregnant. And he said before the tournament or before the Masters started that if his wife went into labor, he would quit. So what if he's on the last hole and his wife calls him saying, "I'm in labor"?
I mean, he's got to finish. I honestly doubt that
he already finished one time, if you know what I mean.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Dude, what are we talking about today?
What we're talking about today is the spring games that went on yesterday. Tennessee, LSU, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Miami. Joe, we'll get to it. Try to get to as many of them as we can. We might be a little bit extended here. I'm sure we'll do some good and bad. Mm-hmm. But what was, of all the games that we went back and rewatched and watched, what was the biggest takeaway that you had before we start all this?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway is we need to stop doing thud during these stupid spring games. I get that the spring games are not supposed to be some massively highly competitive event. It's really just to go out there, let the fans come and watch the guys play. All the work is being done during practice, but Alabama was hitting. You know, Alabama was actually making some hits, and there were some nice plays that happened in that game, and I was excited by that. But, like, what the heck am I supposed to get out of the Ohio State game? There's nothing to take out of it. They were, like, slapping each other and bumping into each other. And look, they played a good game, and there were some nice positive things, but I just hate it when the spring games are thud. Put the stupid beanies on, put the caps on, and let them hit each other. If you're that worried about safety, it's football. We got to stop with that part of trying to limit contact.
Here's what I'll say. And I only take a couple of things here and there for observations from spring. I don't really write them down as gospel. But let's just say Ohio State has issues tackling later on in the regular season. Then what did you do all spring? So here was the biggest takeaway for me. It's two parts. Number one, Lane Kiffin, what are you doing? Okay, the whole Ole Miss thing was a joke. 7-on-7 is a joke. Okay, having Joey Chestnut out there eating freaking hot dogs is a joke. I don't like that, right? Like I think you're making a mockery, but it is what it is. Secondly, I think the biggest winner of yesterday, without question, was Jalen Milroe at Alabama. I don't think it's remotely close. I don't think it's even. Look, Ohio State, we'll talk about them. I think Will Howard won the day for them, at least through the spring. We'll see what happens in August. But the biggest winner has got to be Jalen Milroe at Alabama.
I was very impressed by Jalen Milroe. I think that the plan was to talk about them right out of the break. So I'll kind of save my thoughts for that. But, yeah, I was blown away by some of the things that he did. And one of the things that I say on the show a lot is if I'm proven wrong, my opinion fluctuates. I am not one of those people that's going to be purely rigid in my decision-making from season to season. I might support one team and then bash them another. And Alabama, Jalen Milroe, I might be saying some really unexpected positive things for a guy that I was pretty critical of last year.
We'll get into it. So I'm not gonna go more. I think the second biggest winner in all of this to me has to be college football fans. You know why?
Why?
Because, Joe, yesterday we were able for just at least for a day to be able to take a step back and say to ourselves, football. When football was going on yesterday, we weren't worried about the portal. We weren't worried about realignment. We weren't worried about any of it. We were worried about what was on the field and what actually mattered here. So I think that we as fans won the day yesterday, if that's your kind of thing. I watch spring college football more than anybody. I tell you what.
I like you bringing that up. I think that's a really nice kind of way to lead us into the start of this recap after the break, that there has been just, as soon as the season ends, this has happened over the past couple of years, there's just nonstop talking, the nonstop talking of changing the game and the problems and investigations and conference realignment and all that stuff. And we were able to just get the on-field product of seeing these guys play. Some games were a little bit more physical than others, but we were just able to get a glimpse of, this is what we're going to see in 2024. And there's some big takeaways that we're going to get to on today's show.
Well, we don't have any time to waste, so let's get into it. And let me start off by saying this, just so I don't have to hear it from other fans. Joe and I are going to not do this in any specific order. We're just pulling them at random. So, why are y'all talking about these guys first? We're just going to talk about the games and react to them. So, if you want us to talk about your team, we have too many that we'll talk about today. We'll get to some more throughout the week. Joe, let's waste no time here because we got lots and lots we need to get to. Let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. By the way, on Friday night, I think I'm pretty sure I tweeted this out. I put a little something was in the air for me. I went over to BetOnline. I put $20 down on Scottie Scheffler, and today I will be cashing that baby out. Using the promo code BELIEVE50. You can do that as well. 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Let's talk about them, Joe. We'll come back, talk spring games. It's going to be a fun show. We got football we actually got to break down. We do that next.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
We're back. Let me ask you this question. This is actually a good soundbite for our man here. Who's more back, the University of Texas football or Scottie Scheffler winning the Masters again? Isn't that a good come in for our guy Scottie here? And by the way, didn't you shoot a plus 24?
20 me?
Yeah.
Yeah, 28. I played like shit yesterday. I mean, that's
could you imagine doing what Scottie Scheffler did? You know what he was from the very beginning of the weekend? I'm going to start off with this. He's Mr. Consistent. He doesn't overwhelm you. He's not going to outdrive anybody. He's not going to outchip anybody. He's not going to really outputt anybody. But what he does, he's just Mr. Consistent, and that's why he continues to win. So, Scottie, congrats to you, my man. How about that?
Yeah, huge win. Huge win by Scottie.
The second biggest winner of this weekend, Joe, has got to be Jalen Milroe at Alabama. Let me start off with this. I texted you this morning, because you're on West Coast time. I'm in Central Standard Time. And started breaking down games this morning. And I think I flabbergasted you because I texted you and said, hey, did you get to see the Alabama game? And, we had so much going on yesterday. We all had to go back and rewatch the film. Kalen DeBoer. Look, Joe, we made the question throughout the offseason already. Is DeBoer really going to go with Jalen Milroe? And, Brody, the biggest winner of the entire offseason, if this continues to progress, might be Milroe with DeBoer being there. Joe, he looked so good. He was making throws in tight windows. His footwork, it was not good. I texted a quarterback buddy of mine who does a lot of draft stuff with guys, and I said, can you look at Jalen Milroe for me and tell me I'm not crazy? Footwork, he texted me back and said, footwork elite. So I look at a guy like Jalen Milroe and say, Joe, I know it's just spring, but when you're dotting dudes up like that, have a day, young man. He looked pretty impressive.
Yeah, and before I kind of get into this, I just want to say we're not trying to overreact to any of these spring game performances. Like there is obvious.
We're reacting to the day.
Yes. We're not going to sit here, and I'm not going to sit here and say the performance that you get from certain guys is enough to depict them as a Heisman Trophy winner. I'm not going to go that far. But last year I felt like Jalen Milroe was super robotic at times. He just did not feel natural. And not only did it show up in his footwork, like you're talking about, his mechanics, but also his decision-making. And I felt like that was the most natural version of Jalen Milroe that I've ever seen. The fact that in just the spring he's made these improvements makes me not worried, but very excited to see what's going to happen for him during fall camp as they're leading up to the start of the season. He is extremely physically gifted as a runner and as an athlete. And if he can be more consistent with his accuracy and his decision-making, that is going to make him one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I really, really think. What was that comment?
I was trying to delete it. I'm not dealing with that today.
What the hell is that? Some clown. It's back to my point, though. I think that Jalen Milroe, the way that he looked in this game, he's a completely different player. He looks bulked up. He looks just ready to take over and be one of the best players in the country. I'm not going to say that I feel that it's going to happen and come to fruition just yet, but I was blown away with the version of Jalen Milroe that showed up and played in this game.
I'm not going to go there, okay? Because, the voice of college football, I think, for Joe, what you and I do for a long time was our good friend Bill King. And I go on with him every week. And I when a spring game happens, I have Bill King in the back of my head saying, Blake, don't overreact to a spring game. But it's not, Joe, that I think that he's going to throw for 3,500 yards and 35-plus TDs. This is what happened, at least in my opinion. Now, two things here that I think I noticed the most. Good on Kalen DeBoer for remaking things offensively. What do I mean? Joe, they threw the ball around, but if you notice, they would go in pistol. They ran a lot of zone read. He looked like he liked him having a running quarterback. I think the second thing was everything got set up throughout the day because of how Jam Miller ran the football. Womack, the DC, started backing his safeties out a little bit, and they started running the football effectively. And quite honestly, that offensive line dominated that D line yesterday, which is going to be the bad part of yesterday. If you're at Alabama, then you're like, oh man, they kind of got pushed around. Maybe we do need to go hit the portal for a DT. But Kalen DeBoer remaking things for a guy like Jalen Milroe, I would, if I'm an Alabama fan today, I feel a lot better than I did when Kalen DeBoer got hired because there's so much of the unknown. And I thought offensively they looked good. I got to say this. I think their running game is going to be a lot better than I thought it would be. I did think, Joe, personally, that Kalen DeBoer would try to fit a square peg into a round hole. I didn't know that he would change things this dramatically because of the quarterback he had. Joe, they were running deep stuff when it comes to run schematics in a spring game. They were running power. They were running zone. They were running deep zone, where you just run and try to get as wide to the field as you can. Every blocking scheme that an offensive lineman can do and can have was run yesterday. They were dynamic. I see everybody on Twitter telling me that Alabama was vanilla on offense. Bullshit they were.
What? Who's saying that?
Look at Auburn. Look at Auburn fans, and they were, he was vanilla. The only thing vanilla like that was there was the ice cream at the local Sonic, okay? Because they did a lot of good things. Here's the thing, though. Jam Miller and that running game had a really big day. The problem is, you know what else? Even though the offense looked better and DeBoer calling plays and doing things, it looked a lot better. You know what doesn't look like Alabama right now? That front seven. Joe, they got pushed around on simple inside zone. That would be what I would be worried about.
Yeah, to quickly hit on the running game you just talked about there, I was really impressed with Jam Miller. Man, he was running hard, he was running downhill, he was running vertically. Really good body control. I thought that he was just finding extra yards here and there. I wouldn't be shocked if Jam Miller isn't a top 5 statistical back in the SEC this upcoming season. I was really, really impressed with the way that he played. To round out the thoughts on Jalen Milroe, though, I just want to say that we a couple weeks ago talked about how we weren't even sure if he was going to be the starter, because it felt like it would make more sense for Ty Simpson or Austin Mack.
By the way,
he looked fine.
Holy Ty Simpson.
Yeah, he looked better than I was anticipating. But
me too.
I think that as you're talking about here, where there's so much uncertainty with a new head coach after Nick Saban has been there for so freaking long, that it's good to know that there is one pillar of certainty, is that Jalen Milroe has proven that there are no questions anymore, that he is the starting quarterback and he's taking these strides forward and that he's continuing to get better and better. But to round out with the thought that you just had, yeah, defensively, they looked messy. And I don't know if that is just the case that Kalen DeBoer comes in, the first thing that he's going to inject life into is going to be the offensive side of the football, and that it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out the defensive identity. It's also really important to recognize they lost a lot of bodies. Like they lost a lot of guys that are going to be top 100, top 150 draft picks in the upcoming draft.
Right.
And the next up might not be sufficient enough because they haven't developed yet and they no longer have the defensive presences that they used to have on the coaching staff. So we said this when DeBoer was hired. Be very wary of if they're defensively going to be as competitive as they were. And they might be a little bit more average than they were dominant in the past.
I got to say this, though, Joe. They did lose a lot of stuff. But you know who also lost a lot of bodies? That offense. And to be real with you, Joe, both sides of the ball is learning a new system. And normally what happens is when you have a whole new coaching staff, the defense takes a step forward before they do offensively, right? Like
sure.
every time that I have been around a new coaching staff ever, either in my media career or playing career, the defense should normally take the first step because, Joe, you're probably only learning like 10 to 15 plays of install. Like, what are your 10 to 15 base plays that you'll run? Where yesterday, offensively, they ran a lot of different things in a lot of different formations. My point would be here, the DBs, I thought, had a horrible day. They look lost, and they lost a lot of DBs. Joe, I know what I'm about to say is all Blake's at ACC homer. Kalen DeBoer cannot come in this conference. And if you have a defensive performance like that, and that is weekly, you're going to be LSU from last year. I don't give two Rudy Poos how good you are offensively. I don't care. When you get pushed around like that and your DBs look that lost, Joe, it's not like they were doing anything dynamic in the passing game. What did he run yesterday? They ran post, hitches, slants, digs, comebacks. Oh, and the tight end ran a crossing route that Jalen Milroe dotted up twice. They weren't being dynamic completely in the passing game. So the running game, they were actually more dynamic, which surprised me. How can you be so lost defensively when both sides are having to learn everything new? Here's what I think to your point. I say all that to agree with your point. Not only did they lose bodies, man, Joe, they're about to take a massive step back because there's nothing. If you look like that against Vanilla, what's going to happen when you get to Rocky Road?
Yeah.
Okay, like what happens when things start getting more complex? Now, you got to give grace. And every time there's a new coaching staff, you have to give grace. And I will give them grace. But for me, and just looking at them and defensively, I would be so worried going into fall.
Well, that's the whole point, is that Alabama, and I've said this every single time that we've talked about it, Alabama fans, you got to be patient with this process. They're not going to be 11, 12 wins in 2024. They're just not. 9 to 10 wins. 10 wins would be an amazing season, I think, with the transition that's happening, with all of the important players that left in the portal, all of your depth left. No, actually, sorry, that's an extreme. Not all of your depth.
I'm about to say, you better walk that back.
Losing Caleb Downs was very visibly critical.
Very.
The secondary looked a little lost. And then there were some key depth pieces, some younger guys defensively that decided to go elsewhere, which they've got enough talent to replace. But what I was getting at earlier is that there needs to be more development. They have historically been a team where group goes to the NFL, the young guys have been getting coached up and ready to go, and then they hit the ground running the next season. I do not have that same level of confidence, and that's why I keep reiterating, be patient with the results that are going to happen, because it's not going to be the Nick Saban Alabama team that you saw in the past. And if you get frustrated, it's only going to make this process even more difficult.
Well, and Alabama tried to fluff it. They said Milroe went 3 of 7. Joe, he had 3 completions on the opening drive.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, what part of them going down the field, marching down the field and scoring did Alabama fans look at Jalen Milroe and said, it's the exact same? What the fuck are you talking about? So, I mean, Joe, am I crazy here? Like, because I see Alabama fans saying Jalen Milroe looked the exact same. Said who? Said whom? Because, Joe, what are we missing? 3 of 7, my ass.
3 of 7 on what? Like completions?
They said he was 3 of 7 on completions. He had 3 completions in the opening drive when they marched down the field and scored.
Why do I feel like he threw more passes than 7 passes?
Because he did. You can never trust stats at a spring game.
Well, yeah. Wait. Speaking of
and you know who? Miami fans, we're coming for you.
Wait. Can we talk about Miami really quickly? I don't think it's gonna be a long one. Can we talk about it?
Okay, we can talk about Miami next.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
Can I lead us into it?
Yeah, lead us into it.
Okay. So I have noticed, and I this is my favorite part about college football. I don't think NFL fans do this the same way that college football fans do, because the rivalries are a lot deeper. It's very regional. It's very specific. Florida State fans and Miami fans are really going at one another because Cam Ward had a really nice spring game. Statistically, he had 19 completions for 324 yards and 3 touchdowns. Great performance. Florida State fans are making fun of him for getting a little too excited about that by saying, congrats, when was the last time you did anything on the field that was actually recognizable during the regular season?
Florida State fans better calm down, because I remember 3 years ago you were the exact same way.
Yes. I just want to push back on those Florida State fans by saying, when was the last time a quarterback looked as good as Cam Ward did in their spring game? He looked really good. Now, he had a couple overthrows and a couple misfired passes, but they have not had a talent at quarterback anywhere near the stratosphere level of Cam Ward. And I'm just saying, he's going to put the college football world on notice. I'm not saying that this game is the indicator of he's going on his Heisman run. Oh my God, look at this game. But we need to stop trying to diminish what he did during this performance.
So Shannon Dawson, who was at Southeastern Louisiana, believe it or not, is their offensive coordinator. I've known him since 2001. I like it. I like Shannon a lot. Talking about Miami. So Joe, here's the conversation that we'll continue to have the entire offseason. Talent-wise, I think that dude on dude, pause, but dude versus dude, you can make the pretty strong argument that they are as talented as anybody in the ACC. The way that Mario has recruited, the way that they have started to develop some of these guys, they have a crap load of talent. The question becomes, does Mario hold them back from a coaching aspect? He has recruited it at a really good level. I do agree with you on Cam Ward looking good. How much do you equate that, right? Because how much do you equate him and that being a spring game? But they got talent everywhere. Joe, I don't know if they can't win the ACC. And look, I've seen it too. I've seen Florida State fans getting onto them, preferably our good man TJ Pittenger, who covers Florida State. Look, man, I don't know if they're not the most talented team in the ACC. From a roster standpoint, they got elite dudes. I just don't know if Mario can take them over the hump, which will always be the question.
Well, and that has always been the thing with Mario when he was at Oregon, and then now that he's at Miami, is actually actualizing the talent on the field, is getting them to play at the level, their ceiling. Right. He has done a really good job of stockpiling talent through the portal, through recruiting. They have so much potential. There is so much upside for their capability. And you're talking about where when we comes time for us to make these ACC picks, it might be a sweep across the board of us both picking Miami. But there's a big, big if on there. If Mario can get the job done in terms of effectively preparing these guys during fall camp for the start of the season. And there's been a step forward in the spring game. I think that we saw a noticeable, tangible improvement during the spring game, but there is still another step that needs to be taken in order for them to get to that spot that we're talking about here, which is winning the ACC.
I think that they, for what it's worth, I think that they, from top to bottom on both lines of scrimmage, are the best in the ACC, which is why I like them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're better at receiver. Okay. I think that they're better at DB. I think they're better at linebacker. They got edge dudes. They got interior defensive linemen. Joe, I got to ask you a question here about Miami. Where's their weakness? On field, not coaching, where is their weakness?
Maybe they're secondary because they're replacing Cam Kitchens and 2 safeties, but that's the only thing I can think of. That's really it. And they have Ruben Bain on coming off the edge, who's looked really good, and then they've got a number of 4 or 5 stars that are sophomores that are going to come up and play. Their offensive line lost a couple of guys, but again, 4 and 5 stars across the board. Samson Okunlola and Francis Malinois. That group, that offensive line, might be better than last year.
They're
going to put out a couple guys in the NFL.
Last year. Far better than last year.
They're losing 2 or 3 guys, I'm pretty sure, which is insane to say. That's crazy. That's nuts that a team could get better after putting 3 guys in the NFL.
You know what's sad, though? We're talking about this and still have questions about him because of their head coach and his ability to coach on field.
Look, before we move off from Miami, that has always been one of my biggest criticisms of any team led by Mario. It's one of the few coaching situations where I've been given context on how he's like, because I've talked to multiple people that have been at different stops that he's been at. Either played with him or were part of certain departments that were interacting with the team. And the over hands-on nature that the way that he coaches, he is overboard. He needs to take I think that if he wants to be successful, he needs to take a step back and needs to be better about okay, I'm a really good recruiter. I need to let my coaches coach.
He needs to Orgeron it.
Yes. I need to let the social media department do their job and not, micromanage them. I need to let the players be a little bit more relaxed. I've heard some not heinous bad things, but I've just heard some crazy shit where you think of bad bosses you've had and you're like, oh my God, that's way too much that he's doing. So if he takes that step back, that's where they ultimately get to their success.
We'll see, man. It's crazy because I don't sit in the middle with them. I don't think that they can go 9-3. I think that they're going to be 10-2, 11-1, or they're going to be 7-5.
That's the perfect way to put them. That is the perfect way to put them.
There's no in between with Mario. And I think that I'm leaning more to them getting to 10 wins than I am them getting to 7-5, because this team walks out of bed. In the ACC, that team wakes up out of bed and they're going to win 7 games next year without question. By the way, they start off the season with Florida, which we'll get to Florida in a minute. But going into the swamp is never easy. So they open up with a big one. Joe, let's move over to Ohio State. So Will Howard got to start with the first team yesterday for Ohio State. Did you see them come out in the wing tee or whatever it is that they came out with and ran the football?
I love it.
That is the most Chip Kelly thing I've ever seen.
That is, and they were doing a little bit of that stuff at the end of the game, I think, with they were doing a lot of air. They put Aaron Nolan in, and they didn't really let him throw the football. But yes, the wing tee stuff that they brought in the beginning is awesome. I love that.
Joe, I got to make it this is going to be double-edged, so I'm going to go good, bad very quickly in this take. That front seven dominated yesterday. Dominated. Now, there were some runs that Judkins and Henderson broke, but Joe, when you watched that game yesterday, they come out. So I scripted the first 7 plays for this offense. 2 sacks. The next drive, 2 sacks. I don't like that. I know you're playing a really good front seven, Joe. You can't give up sacks in a base stuff like that. I thought Jack Sawyer looked good. I thought that front seven looked really stinking good. My problem is, hey, big dog, you can have all the weapons all the live long day. If you ain't got the dudes up front on the O-line, you're in trouble.
You have the same exact thoughts as me. Their receiving group really stood out to me. Their skill players really stood out to me.
Catch on the sideline.
Oh my God,
dude.
I mean, he made it look so casual too. But the flip side of that, we have to pull back the context for a second, kind of leads into the quarterbacks were fine. There were some really nice plays that they made. There were some really plays that they made. And I bring up the Ibuka catch because it's an overthrow. If you actually place the ball where it needs to be and it's a less capable receiver, that's a standard catch. But because Ibuka is so great and his hands are so great and he's back to being fully healthy, it looks like he was able to make a shining moment there. I think that for me, and I don't know about you for the quarterbacks, Will Howard looked better as a passer, looked more poised and more consistent.
He moved the football better.
Yes. I thought that Devin Brown, it was far more tangible how much more impactful he can be as a runner. And I don't think that is enough to make him a starter, but I understand part of why a lot of reporters and pundits that cover Ohio State have talked about how special he's looked. He still needs work to do as a passer, though. But the athleticism is amazing. I think he's a really good athlete.
My bad for walking on you there.
Yeah,
so this was my thing, and we talked about Devin Brown last week. Joe, like I told you, he's going to have to make this guy kind of leap. Now, everybody listening on podcast, okay, it's a picture of Joe Burrow, who ironically was at Ohio State before, Urban Meyer made the worst decision of his life and let him walk and let him go to LSU to win the national championship. Nevertheless, had to throw that in there. Ohio State fans try to continue to claim him. Devin Brown is not taking the step that everybody. I know the kid can run. I know the kid is a freak athlete. I know the kid can make some plays. He's not bad at throwing the football. He had a throw, I think it was a hitch route. He put it on the money. He was fine. The offense moves better with Will Howard right now. And I don't think it's like, Joe, I don't even think it's remotely close. Now, the kid can run. And I think it depends on how you want to run this offense. It's going to be a cold day in hell for me before I put in Will Howard, or I put in Devin Brown over Will Howard. Joe, here's the thing. I know that Ohio State wants to use their backs. I know Ohio State wants to run the football more. But, Joe, did you see what they have on the outside yesterday? Will Howard gives them the best chance to win, in my opinion, because of he's able to get their playmakers the ball outside of the hash marks. Bottom line. And in today's game, Joe, if you're just trying to run the football and you're not effective throwing the ball down the field, you're not going to get to the success that you need to get to. I think Will Howard made some bad to okay throws, but Joe, he made some really good ones too. And sometimes, like, people were like, oh, he made a bad throw and the receiver had to make a good catch. Joe, a lot of times when you're a quarterback, you just got to throw that sumbitch out there and say, hey, I have elite dudes on the outside. I'm going to give him a chance. Like, what was it, the Smith catch in the back of the end zone? He comes down with one hand. You got, like, I remember listening to Burrow talk about this since we just talked about him. He goes, Joe, they're double covered. He goes, it's Jamar Chase. Like, I'm going to throw him the ball. And I think that they have those type of dudes all the time at Ohio State that you just there's going to be times that we'll throw it to him. Devin Brown does not give you the best chance to win right now.
Okay.
And that's my thought on it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there.
You're all right.
I think that the way to sum that up is that Will Howard, the guy was a starter for a year and a half, okay? Regardless of my feelings of him, they brought him in because they needed steadiness. They needed more consistency.
Right.
I criticized the move because I didn't think it really took them over the top. It's a slight improvement from Kyle McCord in the sense that he is going to be able to make a smaller amount, a small batch of plays that Kyle McCord could not make.
But is that what they need? Like,
yeah,
meaning,
but that's the point, though. That's the whole point, is that is if they have all of this roster around them, they're going to be more successful because that is the guy that they brought in. Their ceiling is higher with Devin Brown because Devin Brown is a more athletic player. He fits exactly the mold of Chip Kelly quarterbacks that have been extremely successful. The ceiling could be ridiculously high for Devin Brown. And maybe Devin Brown, he's got enough eligibility. Maybe he starts after Will Howard goes to the NFL next year, and Will Howard will be a backup somewhere in the NFL. But maybe Devin Brown eventually starts, and then we get to see what he could fully capably be. But as you're talking about here, it does not look like he is to that point just yet where he can go out there, he can start, because they need steadiness. They can't do Kyle McCord again where too many ups and downs.
Well, and here's another thing. You're too good right now, if you're Ohio State, to let a kid develop. Now, if you wanted Devin Brown, then you should have just punted the ball last year, or punted it last year and said, look, we're going to go 9-3, but we see a lot in Devin Brown, and then make it this year being his year. But they didn't want to do that. The ball is just going to be moved at a much better pace with Howard there. I will say this. They had one weakness yesterday, in my opinion, because I thought the secondary and that front seven got after him too. So I think both sides won the day. I think that they're a very complete overall team. I know that I was listening to Ryan Day last night when he says we're doing a lot of different things along the offensive line. And like, Joe, at that place, you're too deep, or you had 3 guys that are going to be starting for you, 4 guys that were playing that are going to start for you. That's per Ryan Day in the press conference. You can't look that bad, because I will tell you this. When you get into the playoff and that team gets in the playoff, they're going to face, because I do believe that defenses are going to be better overall in college football this year. If you're not better along that offensive line, you better find a lot of different ways to get your dudes in the ball in space. Now, I'm going to remember I said this. They can manipulate things, okay, to make this offensive line look better than it is. I think that they're not bad, but they gave up 4 sacks, Joe, yesterday, 2 in that opening drive. It's just I get weary about that kind of stuff. I know it's a spring game, but we'll see.
I think that level of performance by their offensive line is especially concerning because of the fact that they return most of their starting offensive linemen from last year. So it's not like this is a new group that is coming in, and they sent, the previous year they sent Paris Johnson as a top 10 pick, and it's like, oh my God, who's going to replace him? You would expect that there would be some improvement. However, I will give them the benefit of the doubt, because I was way more damn focused on how freaking good that defense was. Like, I almost am like a little bit afraid to talk about these guys offensively, because holy shit, that defense is really freaking good. 2 deep, they are really good. They were causing problems 3 deep. They were causing problems for Julian Sayin and Keyholtz. They couldn't throw the ball in some instances. They were picking the ball off. They were getting sacks in 3 seconds or roughly in that range. That defensive line, that secondary, the linebacker core, front to back, this is, and again, I'm trying not to do many overreactions, but with the way that we have analyzed their defense and talked about the additions that they had and everything that we've talked about this offseason, and now that I've seen it play on the field, that's the most complete defense in the country.
I'm not going to go there, because
who else?
Georgia.
Who else?
Georgia.
Okay, Georgia probably.
Yeah. After what I saw yesterday from Georgia, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
They're the best team in the country right now.
So you want to get to Georgia then?
No, hold on. I want to say this before we move on. Ryan Day, you need a tackle badly.
Spend some money. Caden Proctor hasn't committed yet. I keep forgetting that.
No, he did.
I don't think he has.
Yeah, no, the whole thing not Ross, Pete Thamel, he's transferring back to Bama.
He was so this is what I realized when I was looking at the A-Day stuff, which is I believe the name of the what they call the spring game. He was spotted there.
Anymore.
He was spotted there. So here's an article from Chase Goodbread. Caden Proctor among notables spotted at Alabama football A-Day. So he's there.
Okay. Well, then he's going to Bama.
He's there, yes. But theoretically, you could throw a bag at him. It's not off the table. There's also that Arkansas kid that entered the portal that I think that you also
they need a tackle.
Yeah,
because me and you saw we saw the same exact thing. They got to get a tackle because look, let me just say it like this: there's teams in college football that, Joe, you have to talk about with a fine-tooth comb, right? Because what you and I are doing is we're looking at Ohio State as a national championship contender, right? And if you let's just say hypothetically, the team we'll talk about next in Georgia, buddy, you cannot run out there with the tackle play that you got yesterday against Georgia. You're going to get killed.
Yep.
Will Howard will get killed. So we still think that they're a national championship contender. But when you find their weakness, you got to look at their weakness and you have to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Speaking of the Georgia Bulldogs, you want to get to them?
Yeah, let's do it.
How about this? We're 40 minutes into the show. How about this? Let's reset very quickly because we got LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida to do.
There's no way we're getting all of those.
Well, we're halfway through. Well, I think we can get to them all. Let's do this. Let's talk about our good friends over at HomeField Apparel, and then we'll come right back and talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. Stay with us. Hit the like and share, by the way. Don't be a Rudy Poo, right? Like, if you don't hit the like button and you're on YouTube, you're a Rudy Poo. Your mom just told me. I love all of you. Don't tell her I said that. We're back next.
Ruffino and Joe Show is brought to you by HomeField Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan, maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. Whatever it is, even Idaho, they have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code RuffinoJoe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO, Ruffino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
I just got sent a video, Joe.
Oh, no.
Oh, God. I'm gonna send it to you after the show. It's gonna be made a meme because I think that there's a running back in college football that's going to run people over like this. I'll send it to you after the show. Joe, the Georgia Bulldogs had their G Day yesterday. I'll kick it off to you first. Let me just say this: I went ahead and put a small little $10 bet on Carson Beck to win the Heisman.
I mean, that is not a hot take. I mean, that might be one of the colder takes that you could probably throw out there. No, I'm just kidding.
He did throw 2 picks yesterday.
Which you brought up the defense, and I think that we're consistently reminded how good they are defensively. But my plain and simple easiest thing, and the only thing that like really is different from what we expect from Georgia, is that their offensive arsenal is tremendous. You know, they have after what they went through last year with the injuries, the lack of depth, you can see that there is a capability for them to take a step forward offensively. And Carson Beck played so well, not having those same level of options. And now here we are with him, you know, getting Colby Young and Trevor Etienne, guys like this into the mix. That offense, I think, is capable of being the most important part of the team to lead them to success. So I feel a lot more confident in them offensively from some of the plays that were made by some of these guys. And I'll throw this out there. I think Colby Young, who's the Miami transfer, he feels like somebody who could have a really surprising, productive season because he's a great
yards
player.
Receiving and like 12 TDs. And you're going to be like, how in the hell that happened? Because they're going to him in the red zone.
Yep.
Joe, the biggest question mark going into for Georgia, I know I talked to our buddy Brooks Austin, and he had said that obviously it was going to be offensive line because they're replacing a lot. You got Mims. There's so many dudes you got to replace. Oh, well, buddy, you found out a lot about them yesterday because, my goodness. Listen, we talk about Georgia, and the first thing that everybody thinks about when you talk about Georgia is what? Their defensive line. Well, as my grandmammy used to say, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. That offensive line, dude, Joe, they pushed them around. But the thing was, when the offense and the O-line started pushing around, defense came right back, started punching right back. Joe, I put good and bad for each team. Things I like, things I didn't like. Georgia's the only team that I don't have any bad on because I think guys like Mikael Williams is an absolute freak. He jumping up, batting the ball up in the air and picking it off. They had another interception from a safety. Joe, they're just all around, to me, the most talented team in the country. And I don't think it's close. I think like where a team might have a weakness here or there, find me the place that they have a weakness. You're not going to find it. I think that defense is better. I think they're better in the interior than they were last year, and that's what Alabama exploited. Dude, they are freaking good. By the way, Trevor Etienne might be, because of fit. Hear me out. Trevor Etienne might be the biggest pickup in the portal this year because of fit. Because they needed a back. Mm-hmm. And what I saw from Etienne yesterday, Joe's catching passes out of the backfield. He's running right up the middle. He's not the best player that went in the portal this year. He might be the biggest pickup because they needed a back. My God, did he look good yesterday. Joe, when preseason rankings come out, if you ask me who else I'm putting at number one besides Georgia, I'm going to slap you because they are right now, to me, the best team in the country.
Yeah, that's my whole point here is, is water wet? Like their defense. Their defense looks well-rounded and talented. That's the
secondary is great.
Yeah, it is so well-rounded. It is so freaking well-rounded to this point where I'm not surprised. I'm almost not tired.
You know who they are?
Who?
Say it.
Alabama? Yeah, they're turning into Alabama.
East Nick. Dude, they don't reload. They don't rebuild. No. They have reloaded. By the way, they're going to lose talented dudes. Where? I mean, Joe, Dylan Bell might be my non-LSU player, might be my favorite player. What you going to do with him? Because you put him in a slot, you put him at H-back, you put him at X, you put him at Z. Good luck, buddy, because he's bigger than you. He might be a little bit faster than you. There's name a place that they have a weakness. They don't have one.
No. And it shouldn't be. My point is, shouldn't be a hot take to put them at number one. It's a foregone conclusion at this point.
I don't know what to say about them. Really.
I think there's a lot to be said about Florida, though. I mean, we got to talk about this insane.
Hold on. Can I say one more thing about Georgia?
Yeah.
Georgia's got a brutal schedule. I like both lines of scrimmage. I thought Carson Beck was dropping dimes. I thought a couple of throws that he made in the end zone over the middle of the field. Here's the thing that I will question. If anything, C.J. Allen had a pick. Joe, if they get to a place where they need to throw it out, though, do they have the dudes? That'd be the only thing. I think they do. But we've never really seen Georgia get in a shootout, right? It's always been somewhat close. The last time we saw them,
need to.
Well, right, because they don't need to. All right, you want to get to Florida?
Yeah.
All right. Joe, can I tell you the most mid quarterback in the country? And I mean this as a compliment.
Somehow.
I think Graham Mertz makes almost all the right decisions. Like, what we needed to see from Florida yesterday was Graham Mertz throwing the ball down the field. Well, they did. And he did. We'll talk about their secondary in a moment. He showed me what I needed to see. He made damn near, almost. He got picked off, but not really his fault. He damn near made every right decision. I know that there's a lot of negativity around Florida. And I don't know if they got the talent to not go 5-7. Here's what I do know. Graham Mertz is not as bad as everybody makes him out to be. He makes the right decision time after time after time. If they don't want to have a losing record, he's going to have to do what he did yesterday in the regular season and push the ball down the field. Joe, they got dudes. Trey Wilson is a guy. Their wide receiver, Trey Wilson, is a guy. But, man, I don't know how they're going to run the football.
Yeah, look, you bring up Graham Mertz. He is the one steady piece that they have. He is the one thing that makes you feel a little bit better. And it's good to have an adult in the room at the quarterback position when you're trying to figure out what to do with all the youth and the talent that they have. But you know what? My only thoughts on this game are summed up perfectly with what I tweeted about yesterday. They had 10 guys on the field for a PAT attempt in the spring game. This is, I mean, like, how many times are we going to see this? The lack of preparation, the lack of attention to detail. He has been a head coach for a long period of time at 2 schools now. This is not his first head coaching stint. This is not the first time, and he's in his second season as a head coach.
He's in his third season.
That's my point.
Oh,
He has been there for long enough time now. It is bullshit that he keeps making these mistakes. And that's all the indicator that I need to know that he is not preparing these guys effectively enough. The lack of attention to detail that constantly shows up is so freaking problematic. And it is going to continue to bite them in the ass. They're 5-7, man. I'm sticking at that, and I'm not moving it up any further. And he's not going to last the full season.
I don't know how he does. Now, DJ Lagway was everything I thought he'd be.
Yeah, he made a great throw. He had one really good throw that he had.
He made multiple good throws. Yeah. I mean, he had the touchdown, the post into the end zone was a great throw. He had a couple crossing routes. Joe, I just don't know how they're going to run the football. They were okay, but you know what they were? You know what I walked away from that game yesterday saying? They're the exact same. Literally. Yeah. So they promoted an offensive coordinator, a guy that I know very well. I'm going to leave it at that. He was at LSU with Orgeron in 2020, 2019. The bottom line is that Billy ain't giving up anything on that offense. He's going to call the plays. It's going to be his, and it's going to bite him in the ass. They don't have the dudes. I look at them and say, bro, you just got ripped alive by Graham Mertz, big dog. Like, and I think Graham's not bad, but that secondary that they have been saying has been bad the last 2 seasons, you didn't get better. Name one place you got better. You didn't get better at corner. You didn't get better at safety. Your nickels are running scared. Now, Manny Nunnery from Houston, the linebacker, was the best DB on the field, and I know he's a linebacker, but he had a pick, right? Like, I mean, like, what are we doing here? Joe, they're not it's going to be a long season, I fear, for Florida fans. Mm-hmm. But here's the truth. You're only one more season away before you get Lane Kiffin.
I'm not going to acknowledge that.
Okay.
We've already had that battle.
Here comes the Lane train.
What does it sound like, a train?
You've never watched Major Payne then?
No.
Want me to tell you about the little story that could again?
Go to
You've never seen Major Payne?
No.
Oh my God.
Let's get to the LSU game.
You've never seen the movie with Major Williford Payne.
I've not seen it.
All right. Here, you have homework tonight. Are you ready?
I'm not watching this tonight.
Oh, yes, the hell you are. I'm quitting.
Well, I'm working until 2 tonight. I'm not watching this tonight.
Joe, if you do not watch Major Payne by this time next week, we're canceling all shows from here on out. Okay. All right. Want to get to LSU?
Yeah.
All right. So obviously I cover LSU. I got the man behind me, Burrow, God Burrow. I'll kick it to you first and get an outside, because if LSU fans see this, I want them to get an outsider's perspective on it. You go ahead. What did you see from LSU in the spring game yesterday?
Well, this was the one game we talked about pre-show I didn't get eyes on. This was the only one that I didn't watch.
Okay. So I'll let you down
on this
All
one,
right.
Yeah.
Joe, I think LSU, for what a lot of people make fun of them about, is, and especially Brian Kelly, they got some work they got to do. They got to go get better in the interior of the defensive tackles. They got to get better at the boundary at corner. Joe, but it's the same old story for LSU. Find a wide receiver that's born, raised, and from the state of Louisiana. Plug them, play them. They're going to be good. Offensively, Joe, I'm going to make a hot take. I really do believe, in my heart of hearts, from watching this team and watching other teams, I think that there are 3 teams in the country that have really good offensive lines. One is at Georgia, and the second one's at LSU. And I don't know if this offense doesn't change a little bit because of how good they are along the offensive line. Joe, they are extremely talented. Counter runs, zone runs, wide scheme zone runs. It doesn't matter because the 2 first-round guys, Will Campbell and Emory Jones, are going to, as Green Day would say, or Imagine Dragons, we're going to light you up, okay? They're going to run the football effectively. The question becomes, I think that they got individual talent on defense. Can they finally put it all together? I think Blake Baker's going to be better for them as a play caller. They got a lot of question marks. And the best team that they can face, the best coach that they could face in game 1, week 1 is Lincoln Riley because he's going to test them. And if you want to find out about this team and this defense, you're going to find out very quickly. I'm worried about them on the interior defensive line. And if they don't get that corrected, they're in trouble.
It doesn't surprise me that the interior defensive line is still a glaring issue. I mean, especially for the fact that Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo, who were the most impactful guys that you had last year, are moving on to the NFL. It really wouldn't shock me if what you're talking about here doesn't result in them not stepping up to the plate and they lose a game that they shouldn't next year because they just can't stop the run up the middle. You know, they really need to, and I don't know who's going to even enter the portal in the spring that would be worthy of them going after, but they got to find someone.
Louisville's best defensive lineman, Jermaine Lowell, just went in the portal, and Isaiah Rakes from USC went in the portal. The truth is you got guys that you can go pay to come here and play. They got options. Yeah. So I will.
But they need to get those options.
They do. They got it. They cannot miss. Now, I'm going to give you a hot take. I think that LSU can be an overall better team than they were last year. They're not going to be as dynamic offensively. Not even close. Okay? But I do think that they can be better defensively. But the one weakness that they have, and if you're not good on the line of scrimmage, you're going to get run all – Ole Miss will run all over you right now.
Yeah.
Because you can't stop it. But if they do get 1, maybe 2 of these guys from the portal that we know that can play, Joe, I think you can look at them as a contender because I do think that they got the weapons offensively. They arguably got the best offensive line in the country. Caleb Jackson's a dude. They're just really good offensively. I'm worried about them on defense again. They got a lot of question marks, but that's how I sum them up.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I didn't get eyes on the game, but
yeah, you got lazy and made me do all of it.
Well, shocking that I let you take the LSU takes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You want to get to one more before we get out of here?
Yep.
Did you watch Tennessee? I know you did.
I did watch Tennessee. Again, the only one I didn't get to was LSU. It was the only one I didn't get to.
You lazy fucker. All right. Joe, University of Tennessee had their spring game yesterday. I kick it over to you first. What did you see from the Vols yesterday?
It should not be shocking for any SEC fan to hear the name Nika Iamaleava. I can't pronounce
Iamaleava.
That's not how the broadcaster said it. Okay, so
I don't get to Rudy Pooh's how he said it. That's how it's spelled.
Apologies on the mispronunciation. We're gonna call him Nico. Nico looked really freaking good in the game. I continually am excited by the progression and the steps forward that he takes. I think that now that we got to see him as the lead starter, the guy leading the ones, there's no questions asked. There's no freaking Joe Milton out there overthrowing receivers and throwing the ball out of bounds and shit. Nico looked poised. He looked aggressive. I really think that he is really going to shine this year. I know we talked a lot of quarterbacks today and we put some spotlights on a lot of these guys, but I think that our thoughts on him, on what he could become, we're really starting to get supported by seeing what he can do now that he's got some reps underneath his belt playing for Josh Heupel.
I'm going to say something that's going to bite me in the ass.
Oh, no.
I don't disagree with you on him. Here's what I disagree on, or I worry about. Where are they going to get their running game from?
Well, maybe that's what Damian Martinez comes in for.
Is he going there?
We don't know.
Okay. I don't know how they're going to run the football. They didn't show me anything yesterday. And what is a young quarterback's biggest help?
The run game.
The run game. And
to support him though, their offensive line continues to look better.
Well, see, I thought the D-line won the day yesterday. I thought here was my biggest takeaway. This is the first thing I wrote down. Wide receiver room looked good. If the quarterbacks made better throws, they would have scored a lot more, which I'm still off on their secondary. I don't think that they've changed anything there. Joe, you cannot sleep on their front seven. You can't. I think the biggest misconception when playing a Josh Heupel team right now is that they're not physical. I think that D-line is really physical. Now, they got choked out by Mizzou last year, but that defensive line is nothing to play around with. It's their secondary that's not good. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the football effectively enough. And if Damian Martinez is still in the portal and isn't committed anywhere, you better go after him because you need him.
I wonder if any other backs hop in the portal. Well, I actually, Dallin Hayden, I think, was the
Ohio State back.
The third Ohio State back that hopped in. Like, I go after someone like him. He's a guy who just stuck in a bad situation because he's buried on the depth chart, who could be really productive for them. He feels like he'd be a decent fit for Tennessee if they picked up the phone. I believe his dad played there.
Really?
Wait, because you want to know why I know that? Is because the Believe in Tennessee podcast is hosted by Aaron Hayden, who is his dad, I'm pretty sure.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then never mind. They found themselves a running back, yo.
Yeah, he played at Tennessee, 4th round pick.
Oh, okay. Well, they found themselves a running back. Never mind.
Yeah, he was a running. Yeah, I mean, I keep forgetting about that.
Okay, well, their secondary still sucks, but there you go.
That answers the question.
It does answer the question. How about that? A host on Believe's got a son that's going to be in the portal and go to Tennessee.
Yeah, yep, his dad. Yep, that is his dad, according to his bio.
How about that?
That's all.
Hey,
look at that crystal ball. We just did it. We didn't break.
Did we just crystal ball a kid that we have never spoken to?
We've not only have we never spoken to, but we also we have no idea what his intentions or his thought process. I mean, they need a running back. Why would he not end up at Tennessee?
Right. You know what we need to do? We need to get him to come on the show and commit to Tennessee. We'll be Vol fans for life. I mean, they'll make statues of us in Knoxville.
If he committed on a Believe show, he would probably do it on Believe in Tennessee football. But that's just a hunch.
Actually, it's a recruiting vibe. You want to hear something nuts?
He
cannot do it
because it's his dad.
Because it's his dad.
Oh.
Well, okay. You know what? Never mind. The NCAA can't do shit anyway. Motherfucker, right? I mean, like, you can't. Never mind. Go do it.
That's hilarious.
What's the NCAA going to do?
Not shit.
Not shit. Eat shit. That's what they're going to do. All right. Whew, I feel good. Actually, we got to talk some football instead of arguing with yo ass.
Hell yeah. All right.
Some stupid realignment.
Tomorrow's top 5 quarterbacks. Get ready.
I'm going to vomit. All right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. You heard it, man. That's what we're going to talk about. Y'all have a good one. Peace.